coming out as transgender and a woman of color.
Schools are about children.
So who made it? Wow.
A brave Indianan city councilman comes out as a transgender lesbian of color. Also, Lori Lightfoot is back in the news, interestingly enough. The Met Gala happened last night, and the Weirdos were out in full force. Also, the writer's strike, possibly more Hunter Biden nonsense. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually the third name, Jobob.
Live from downtown Phoenix, the lovely airport hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily Caller Live. On today, it is Tuesday, May 2nd, the year of our Lord 2023, the day after the Met Gala. Like I said, the Weirdos were out in full force, and we will have that on display for you in just a second. But first, I have to get to this astonishingly brave story by an Indiana city council member. Now, this particular individual has defied the odds and has decided to be and live as their true, authentic self. Councilmember Ryan Webb of Delaware, Indiana, is decided to come out as a transgender lesbian female of color. Now, this brave move was made by the city councilman several weeks ago, but it's just being brought to our attention today as, of course, the media suppresses these very, very important stories. I want you to watch the clip of the harrowing tale on the local news of Councilmember Webb's transition and success story. Watch this.
Thank you. Now moving on, teammate, as a Delaware County councilman is coming out as transgender and a woman of color. Delaware County Councilman Ryan Webb announced that he now identifies as an Indian American woman. Since that announcement, he's received some support, but a lot of backlash, many calling him childish, despicable, even calling for things like execution. In a statement Webb gave to iTeammate, he says, quote, "It is unfortunate that I cannot simply be given the same space and respect to explore my identity that so many of those targeting me demand for themselves. It's possible I may change my mind down the road. The process of identity exploration is complex, and oftentimes at the end of our personal journey, we end right back where we started." Webb goes on to tell iTeammate this is just his true, authentic self.
You know, I do see some people in the comments section laughing as if this is funny. Ryan says this is the best troll ever. Marcel says, OMG. I honestly don't know what's so funny about this. This is a harrowing tale of a serious person who has finally decided to identify as their true self. Ryan Webb is a female woman of color. Anybody who disputes that is bigoted and hateful, and they should not be tolerated to exist among polite society such as ourselves. It is interesting, though. Of course, this probably has nothing to do with it. Well, it actually probably has everything to do with it. Ryan Webb, I also believe, is a Republican, which, therefore, of course, his story is being crushed by the mainstream media. He issued his statement making his harrowing transition on April 12th, and it's just getting to our ears today. Why? Why doesn't the media want to tell these stories? I honestly couldn't tell you. But of course, you see just a mind-blowing transition of Councilman Webb. This just so brave, so brave. I almost made it to the whole thing earlier without laughing, and then just couldn't help it. I would love to chat to Ryan or Ryanita or whatever she has decided to go by. Maybe she has kept her name Ryan. But again, nonetheless, a very brave and harrowing story out of Indiana. We love to see these sorts of just bold and brave stories. There's some clips that Matt Walsh had on his show that I thought were really funny from this. The city council meeting met, and several transgender people were very not accepting of her transition. You know, which is just, it's hard to stand the bigotry out here. Um, so there's that. Let me see. Obviously, this is not a serious thing, but it was funny and one's kind of interesting, especially since it made the local news there in Indiana. This actually is more interesting, though. You can probably read on this. This is the official White House statement put out by the Biden-Harris administration, which again is so weird they still do that. The Biden-Harris administration. No, it wasn't. Nobody said in official statements the Obama-Biden administration. Nobody said the Trump-Pence administration. It was the Trump administration or the Obama administration or the Bush administration or the Clinton administration. There was never this tight-knit vice president is just, well, they're working together as a team, especially because I guarantee you these people don't meet often, really. Anyways, all that being said, the Biden-Harris administration will end the COVID-19 vaccination requirements for federal employees, contractors, international travelers, Head Start educators, and CMS certified facilities. Finally, we're thankful that the administration has decided to end the completely irrelevant, not at all useful, and some could say bigoted in their own rights, discriminating against people who did not decide to take the COVID jab. But yeah, did you know this was a thing? So I've talked about this so many times, and I hate to sound like, well, when we were in London, no, but when we were coming back to the United States, there was a form that we had to fill out from American Airlines saying, "Hey, have you been in contact?" It was a bunch of COVID stuff still, and still, I guess, if you're not an American citizen or an American national or legal resident of the United States, you have to prove that you are vaccinated or get a test. Still, like today, if you're not a citizen of the United States and you were flying here from France, I don't know, on business or whatever, you would have to either show your vax card or go take a negative test to on May 2nd, 2023. This doesn't expire. Also, and this is what I have not understood about anything in the COVID policy, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me on this. Why the delay? When things either start or end, in the beginning, it was like, we are going to lock down, every restaurant will be closed, all the gyms closed, all the public activities closed, starting Monday. If it's such an emergency, why don't you start today? And also, if the emergency is over, as everybody in this country and around the world seem to have seen, except for in China, why don't you send it today? Why did Joe Biden, after being forced by Congress on April 11th, decide to push it off a month? Remember that the same sort of thing came out a month ago saying Joe Biden has decided to end the COVID emergency pandemic, or pandemic emergency. And everyone's like, yeah, was it still a thing? Yeah, it still is. And not only was it still a thing then, it still is today. We are still in an emergency. Everybody should probably panic. Everyone panic. There's no good way out of this. This is an emergency. Take care of your family. So anyways, there's that. Not really a ton there, but let's stick on the Biden administration quickly. For a little bit. We have been following this Hunter Biden stuff. There's been more Hunter Biden stuff coming out over and over and over again. But Antony Blinkin, the Secretary of State, did an interview. So if you weren't following this, just a very, very quick recap. Remember that big letter that 51 or some whatever intelligence professionals, former CIA, all of these high-level intelligence officials said, no, the Hunter Biden laptop is totally fake. Okay, so turns out that letter, the organizer of that letter, was contacted by the then Biden foreign advisor, Antony Blinkin, who then went on to become the Secretary of State. This is before Joe Biden was even elected president. Then advisor to Joe Biden, Antony Blinken, said, "Hey, we believe this to be Russian misinformation. I haven't. Oh, I think we believe this to be Russian misinformation. People should probably know about this, don't you think, Mr. Morell, CIA dude?" And then all of a sudden, this letter appears with a bunch of signatures on it saying, "Yeah, this was definitely Russian disinformation." So he's under fire for that. He's going and making some of the rounds. He was on Fox News being interviewed, I believe it was yesterday, saying, "Well, yeah, the communication pretty much exonerates me. I never explicitly told him to craft that letter." Which, of course, if you know how DC works, he doesn't have to explicitly say, "Hey, please craft this letter." The threat of losing access to the White House is enough for somebody to take the initiative and make this whole Russian misinformation laptop story a thing. And that's exactly what I believe happened allegedly. But I want you to watch Blinken say, "Look, as a Secretary of State, I'm out of politics." But remember, the time frame in question does not include him being the Secretary of State. He was not in the Secretary of State office at the time. He was an advisor to a political presidential campaign. And therefore, I want you to, not therefore, what he says is bunk, but also know that going in when we watch this. Check this out. This is fascinating. And I think this story is going to get really, really big at some point. Watch this.
I want to ask about the letter that was written concerning Hunter Biden's laptop that said it was Russian disinformation. Can you explain what your role was in that and if you incentivized it?
Well, first, one of the great benefits of this job is that I don't do politics and don't engage in it. But with regard to that letter, I didn't wasn't my idea. Didn't ask for it. Didn't solicit it. And I think the testimony that the former Deputy Director of the CIA, Mike Morell, put forward confirms that.
I think Blinken's going to get dragged in front of Congress and asked specifically, "Well, did you make contact?" Because we now know that Blinken did make contact with Morell, and in the letter it doesn't explicitly say, "Hey, write this." In the communications between Blinken and Morell, it doesn't say specifically, "Hey, go get a bunch of people to sign this letter saying it's Russian disinformation." But again, like I'm saying, the way DC works, you don't have to explicitly say that. It is understood. And I hope that next time he's sitting in front of Congress, a couple of the Congress people are able to make that case well enough to the American people of like, look, he didn't have to explicitly say, "Hey, let's call this Russian disinformation." That's just what people will do when faced with the threat of losing access to the next administration. Moving on. I'm gonna save this Met Gala thing for the end because I think it's funny and ridiculous and weird. But I think we started off the show with a lot of with dessert. The brave transgender individual. She came out obviously as never mind. Watch the beginning of the show if you missed that part. But I want to move this because I think this is interesting on a lot of different fronts. There is a Satanist after-school club in Pennsylvania. Now, if you have been watching the show for a while, and you probably understand my take on this, I think most things should probably be allowed in the free speech realm. And if their ideas are compelling, even if I hate the ideas, like this Satanist club, let people argue their way out of those bad ideas as opposed to just flat out ban of effectively speech. Now, if they get into weird, like culty genital mutilation weirdo stuff, yeah, then the government has a right to step in and say, "No, you can't do that to other people. That's not cool. You need to protect the citizens of this country." But at the same time, it's just speech. I don't know. How I think about it, it's generally like, yeah, it's come at them with better ideas. Anyways, in a Monday filing issued by the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania and shared by the ACLU, a judge found that here, although the Satanic Temple objectors may challenge the sanctity of other controversial named organizations, the sanctity of the First Amendment protection must prevail. Basically, a school was allowed to the district, therefore, I should have just read the next paragraph. This is from The Hill, by the way. The school, therefore, must allow the after-school Satan Club, which is sponsored by the Satanic Temple, to meet during the school year on 3 previous agreed upon dates, but it won't have to distribute permission slips for the club for students to take home according to the filing. Um, the reason why I think this is interesting, I do a lot of work with Turning Point USA. They are a school club on campus. And if a federal, one of the things that Turning Point USA has difficulty with, and a lot of other conservative organizations have difficulty with, is being recognized by the school on campus. So, even though I find the after school Satan Club to be pretty not cool, uh, at the same time, given that Turning Point on point campuses, and again, a bunch of other conservative campus uh, clubs, given that we face so much difficulty in organizing and being able to be recognized by the school, I think precedent probably is set here in a lot of ways, especially from a federal court, saying, hey, look, whoa. You guys let the Satan Club exist. So at the very least, you can let the club exist that promotes traditional family values and all of that sort of stuff. That, just saying here, shoe on the other foot, given that this is a problem that a lot of conservative organizations have, Turning Point USA specifically, it would seem that if there's any sort of pushback to having a conservative group on a campus, whether it be high school or college, we should be able to point to this particular ruling saying, look, the judge said the Satan Club can meet and be recognized by the district and school. It would be crazy to not let the group/club promoting individual freedoms and traditional values. That would be insane. So hopefully, as abhorrent as the Satan Club might be, this possibly works to our advantage. I would think, maybe, who knows. Moving on to, here we go. Lori Lightfoot. Didn't have Lori Lightfoot in the news again on my bingo card, but we're getting more Lori Lightfoot than we hoped for. Now, the reason I think this is kind of interesting, because Lori Lightfoot, despite how terrible she ran Chicago, in a lot of ways, did go up against the teachers' unions. Now, if you know anything about the Chicago teachers' unions, they run the city of Chicago. The unions are all powerful in the state of Illinois, specifically the teachers' unions. Lori Lightfoot, to her credit, didn't want to open up schools probably when a lot of us did, but didn't want them to stay closed for as long as the unions did. Therefore, she went up against the unions. And if you really want to look at Chicago politics and take a deep dive into that, that is probably why she lost the mayoral race. So with that context in mind and how much we hate Lori Lightfoot's policies, this one, I won't say she's necessarily right, but she's in the right direction. And interestingly enough, went on CNN to talk about the power of the unions and say some things that I kind of agree with. This, again, I don't agree with Lori Lightfoot very often, but I thought this was fascinating. Watch this.
Wasn't the union just doing its job and advocating for teachers that didn't feel safe? Or do you think that their moves harmed our children?
Look, obviously every union should advocate for its members, but it's got to be in the context of an organization. Schools are about children. We demonstrated over and over again that our schools were safe. We put $100 million into retrofitting classrooms, making sure that they had the PPE, making sure that every single classroom had filters to make sure that the air was safe, deep cleaning of every single building. But fundamentally, we know that where children learn the best and where they are safest is in the classroom and in-person learning. And none of our parents signed up to be homeschoolers. And the learning loss is real. We're making big steps in that direction, but the union needed to work with us, and they never
But here's
did that.
what ran.
Oh shoot, that was over quickly. I thought that I had more of that. More of that was kind of interesting. Then the CNN person brings up Randy Weingarten, who again is a terrible, evil person. But holy cow, yeah. Again, was Lori Lightfoot on the timeline that we probably would have wanted in terms of opening schools? No. However, she was and did say something right there. I don't know if you heard that. Schools are about the kids, not about the teachers. Obviously, the advocates of the teachers union, well, isn't the union just doing their job to protect teachers? No, that's not what it's about. A lot of the unions wanted more money, and they held out for more money using your kids as negotiating pawns. We talked about this last week when Randy Weingarten went in front of Congress and said, "We just wanted to open up the schools." BS, you lying witch. But Lori Lightfoot, on the other hand, said, all right, look, we do actually need to get the schools open. She went up against the unions. The unions wanted the schools closed in order to, again, take your kids hostage and use them as negotiating chips. And therefore, the union backed somebody else in the mayoral race. And that, I believe, is why she actually lost. I wish she lost because of the terribly racist things that she would do in the city of Chicago. I wish she lost because of the crime that is existing in Chicago that's completely going unpunished. I wish she lost for so many other reasons. But in the end, she lost because she went up against the unions, who, again, were holding kids hostage. And I don't know. It's interesting. This is the problem that we're facing. You know what it is? Somebody probably said her name 3 times. Lightfoot, Lightfoot, Lightfoot. That's why she's back on our screens. Ryan says, oh no, Beetlejuice is back. If you get that reference. Anyways. I want a tight schedule here. I want to get to this because this is funny. There's a couple other funny things that we got, but geez, maybe we'll have to push those off to tomorrow. The Met Gala happened last night. We'll end it on a bright and funny note. I don't understand the Met Gala. I get it. I understand it as an event, but I don't understand why people care. I don't care at all. But there are a bunch of people that line up just to catch a glimpse of their favorite celebrity in their most ridiculous outfit, which is what the Met Gala is. There's a video that I found from the Met Gala last night that I think is so representative of what this whole idea of celebrity is. I don't understand the whole celebrity thing, especially going throughout the world. Different cultures view celebrities differently than I think a lot of people in the United States do, but I think there's a lot of those residual human nature components where people just love the idea of celebrities. In the UK, you have the king and the queen. Oh, the king once touched my hand. Like, who cares? Who cares at all? And what the Met Gala is the culmination and the biggest gathering of all of these weirdos and the representation of that American, probably human nature component to adore celebrities. Anyways, this clip is indicative of the entire thing, and it is crazy. Watch this.
So who made it? Wow. Okay, so something a little different. So what was your inspiration for tonight? Be honest with me and go into detail. Wow. So what are you excited to see in there today? Is it your first Met?
I don't know why that video paused so much, but that was weird. Maybe it's the internet here. I feel like there's not really much commentary there. That's just the fact that the Met Gala is a weird, very weird place, and that is very reflective of this odd celebrity culture and all these freaking weirdos who just have their weirdo gathering. See more for lots of more groundbreaking commentary. Anyways, that'll do it for us today. I appreciate you sticking around, and especially when we're on the road. Wow, yeah, we're having some internet troubles here, which is great because we're about to hop offline. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Getter, Rumble, all of the things. We are everywhere now. Other than that, wow, the internet is glitching a lot. So we will sign off today. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.